Hey, welcome to the channel. I'm Bree from 1134 Press, where we share creative journaling inspiration. And we created a lot this year. So, in the vein of best of 2022 videos, I wanted to look back on some of my favorite parts of 2022 in this awesome year of creative journaling. Let's jump right into it and let's start with those trend predictions that I made in the beginning of the year. Did they come true? Did they not come true? Let's see.
Number 5 on my list is the Naturalista. We were all in on incorporating dried flowers in our journal projects last year. We casted them in resin, wax seal, taped them directly onto the page, mixed them in our handmade paper batches. This, my friends, isn't going anywhere this year. However, I do foresee us incorporating different natural elements within our journal projects.
Okay, so far so good. I think that part of the prediction is correct. We did see people still using dried flowers primarily as a natural material in their journals. We still saw lots of handmade paper, using flowers and other, fibers from plant materials. But I think this is where my prediction kind of went off the rails.
We'll start seeing twigs and rocks and crystals. I'm predicting, or at least hoping, that we'll see innovation in how to incorporate irregular shapes within our books. Assemblage covers, cutouts, stone covers, charms. I don't think the Naturalista will be satisfied with just flowers in 2022. They will find a way.
I don't know if we really did find a way. I will say that although I didn't see the introduction of different natural materials like that I mentioned in the video, I did see some interesting applications of dried flowers. So I'm going to give myself half a point on that prediction. Okay, so let's look at the next prediction.
In 2022, you will see a doubling down on sustainability. We made a lot last year.
I think it's hilarious that in this video I also said we made a lot last year. But it's true, every year is a year of creativity and making stuff.
We want new stuff to incorporate in our craft stash, and I think we're going to start looking for more sustainable options to replenish what we already own.
So I'm going to pause it there to make a quick note that I think this year was the year where I spent the least amount of money on materials. Like when I'm trying to think of what I bought this year, it was really slim. I think that's very interesting. Let's let the video play and see where I went with that.
So what I believe that means is we're going to be taking more trips to thrift stores, ravaging our closets and digging through our kitchen junk drawers to get materials outside of actually going to the craft store. I think we're also going to start seeing a trend of repurposing old or unfinished projects to create new projects. I think we'll also be engaging in more swapping with fellow crafters and sharing happy mails. You probably won't use those hologram pizza stickers, but someone else might. And meeting up is becoming a lot more safe. So there will be plenty of opportunities to do some resource sharing in 2022.
So again, I think I'm going to give myself like more than half of yes, but maybe 75% correct. I will say when I look at junk journal content that was popping up on my feed, I definitely saw a lot more videos about using up your stash, using true junk. We were definitely moving towards that direction at the end of 2021. And I think we just continue to do that. When I think about years prior, like especially like 2019 and 2020, YouTube and Instagram was like inundated with unboxings, shopping hauls, and a lot of people using digital kits. All of these things are stuff that you have to buy. I've been seeing a lot less of that in my feed, and I think it's because Probably two things. One, inflation. Like, what the heck? It's so expensive for everything now. And, I think that's also reflective of how we choose to engage in this craft. Like, maybe we're not spending as much as we were before because everything just costs more. But aside from that, like, I do also think that this year was really about using up scraps and the materials that you already own to experiment with different ideas. At least that was the case for me this year. And that's the origin of junk journals anyways, to use the things that you already have. So,
and last on my trends list is that machines aren't going anywhere. I believe we're going to start seeing more of this bleed into the junk journal community and in innovative ways. I thought it was important to add this to the list as its own separate trend because the lines between analog crafting and digital have become so blurred in the past few years. I believe we'll continue to see these gadgets incorporated in seamless ways with the advancements in the technology and user-friendly improvements.
I wasn't right. I wasn't right on this one. Technology did not take over. And I say that with my Cricut Joy still in the box. Did not see a lot of people using tools such as the Cricut or any of those other, like, I don't want to say gimmicky because I don't think that's, well, any of those novelty. There you go. That's the word. Any of those like novel scrapbooking type tools. Didn't really see a lot of that this year. Maybe you have, or maybe you follow someone who like strictly uses all of those like cool tools and I just miss them. Definitely, write their name in the comment box because I would love to see what people are doing. But yeah, no, I think in that little snapshot of my predictions, I think everyone's still just moving towards a path of, reduce, reuse, recycle. And that makes me happy. So definitely check out that full video if you want to see like all of the predictions. But I think I was like 50% right. Making trend predictions for something like creative journaling is really tricky. It's easier for music, fashion, and interior design because all of those industries have a mainstream component of it, and creative journaling is decentralized in that there's so many different ways to create and journal. So this year started off at a really rocky start.
I have this ugly little blue splint on it, and I don't think you want to see my bruised, blistered finger.
So I wasn't able to collage much during the beginning of the year. In retrospect, that was actually kind of a blessing in disguise because it gave me a lot of time to think about like, what are we doing? What is creative journaling? What are the best practices? What is the language that we use? How do we describe and think and talk about our art form? I wanted to show some of the favorite tips that I shared over the year that I definitely want to take with me in the next year. The best design tip that I could give to a beginner junk journaler is to keep it simple. Our biggest problem is that when we're introduced to this craft, we are seeing the work from artists that create these really beautiful and intricate projects that seems like they require 1,000 different layers and 20 different skill sets and access to a really huge and expensive ephemera library. So we take all that media in and then we're sitting at our craft desk and we expect ourselves to produce that level of work every time we approach our own projects. But we don't consider all of the years of experimenting and trying new things and failing to get that artist to the point where they can create and share these beautiful projects that we all enjoy watching. There's no such thing as a junk journal prodigy. We don't come out of the womb being able to create all of these really cool folios and lap books. If you clicked on this video because you feel anxiety every time you approach a blank page, or you feel defeated because a project didn't turn out the way you wanted it to, I want to share with you that the 3 ways to overcome these icky feelings are to embrace experimentation, embrace the spirit of play, and embrace the spirit of practice. When you come to your journal with these mindsets, you will want to create more and feel good about it in the end.
I'm always trying to merge function and aesthetic when it comes to decorating this room. I could have just thrown my rolls of ribbon in a box and kept it moving, but putting them in this thrifted basket serves as a practical but cute option to decorate this side table. Since I'm the type of crafter that works on longer form projects, it's important for me to have a little tray or box to hold frequently used materials that are specific to the project that I'm working on. You know, like those little journal kits that I'm always talking about. I often use this wooden dollar store tray for that purpose, but I figured why not make it look a little bit more special by staining it and brushing on a little gold wax. Virginia Woolf said it best in her book, A Writer's Diary. She said to arrange whatever pieces come your way. This is an approach that most junk journal artists are familiar with. We build our books in pages layer by layer to capture a moment or mood with materials that are accessible to us. It is rare for me to know what I'll write about when I sit down at my desk, but as I select materials that I'd like to collage with, I try to take note of how I'm feeling, what's happening around me, or a thought that keeps reoccurring. I use this journal prompt for almost all of my pages. Start with a simple idea or phrase that feels true to you in the moment, and then begin to write more truths about that idea, or to use fiction writing terms, describe using concrete details. This exercise grounds you further into the topic at hand, and then ask yourself open-ended questions like, what does this mean to me? What does this mean for others? Or you can move into metaphor and ask yourself, what does this topic remind me of? What is it similar to? If you write with curiosity in front of mind, you will have no issues with filling a page with insightful and personal text. If you like to use this prompt in your next journaling session, remember to first find one word or phrase, describe details or tell a story, and then ask yourself, what does this mean? In addition to thinking about best practices for junk journaling, I also read a lot of books for inspiration, which set me on a path to explore and discover different journal styles. So that included the Commonplace notebook that I showed you all, the Almanac Diary, and I even had a chance to work with a prompted journal, specifically a life journaling. So while doing all of this exploring, it made me start thinking like, okay, well, what do we do with all of this information? We know all of these different genres and aesthetics and types of journals that we can create, but how can we make it our own in our own voice? Where it doesn't feel like we are following a step-by-step tutorial. So from that, I created the mini series, Finding Your Junk Journal Style. It didn't get a lot of love on YouTube. That's okay. But I personally really love that series because I think it fills in the gaps and explains why we do the things that we do. So with that, I want to share some of my favorite nuggets of information from that series. Without getting overly complicated, layering happens in 3 parts: the base, the focal layer, and then the embellishment layer. These 3 parts are used everywhere in your projects, no matter if you're decorating a 2-page spread or a tag. So let's start with the base. Your base can be as simple as using the page of your journal, no matter if it's white, patterned cardstock, or recycled material. Or your base could be layers of paper or fabric. Or your base could be made with stamping, paints, or whatever materials you're drawn to. The reason we create a base for our collages is to anchor the focal layer. It's a little home for the focal to live in. The definition of ephemera is vague in nature, and I think that's because ephemera is concerned with the temporality of an artifact. While doing research for this video, I learned that temporary spaces could be considered ephemera, like portable classrooms. But for our purposes, I prefer Maurice Rickert's definition of ephemera, which is the minor transient documents of everyday life. Looking at ephemera through this lens broadens our scope of what we collect and understand as ephemera for our junk journals. There are the obvious things that we know as ephemera, such as bank checks, envelopes, ticket stubs, so forth. But we also consider lace trim and buttons and
dried flowers as ephemera as well. Even those obscure examples of ephemera are in line with our working definition that ephemera are documents of everyday life. Although the vintage items and mass-produced ephemera that we have in our craft stash are not actual documents of our everyday life, we still use them to represent and express how we experience life. This is why there's so much variations in the way junk journals can look, and it's hard to define what a junk journal is, especially if we're comparing it to other styles of creative journaling that also utilizes ephemera. But as it pertains to developing a personal style, what the artist chooses as ephemera greatly impacts the look of their journals. Now that we understand what ephemera is in the context of the junk journal, let's talk about how we use it. I don't always approach my journal with a clear and specific goal in mind. I don't really encourage that for you either, but instead, it's helpful to think about what's exciting you in the moment. Is it the sticker pack that you just purchased, or is it an embossing technique that you want to try, or a fancy dip pen? Journal artists are introspective and observational people. While those traits make our work interesting, it can also cause us to overthink our next move. If you found yourself paralyzed at your desk with all your materials strewn about, then maybe that's the thing you can practice. Practice artistic freedom without caring about the outcome of your page. Try being present and start tearing and gluing until your heart's content. Now, if you don't have a problem with getting started, I think it's worthwhile to see how deep and strange you can go with an idea. This is where innovation and new discoveries happen within your work. We can apply this idea to the visual art that we create in our journals, but this practice can also be applied to the subjects that you write about. Like I said at the top of this video, we created a lot this year, made a lot of pages, had a lot of prompts that really stuck with me. Let's take a look at some of my favorite journal prompts and pages that we created this year. So before we wrap up this video, I just wanted to run down a quick list of the things that made 2022 awesome that aren't necessarily video related. The first being the Happy Meal that I received. Oh my gosh, thank you guys. um, Receiving those little parcels in the mail just made me feel really warm and fuzzy and part of this community, and it has affected me so much so that Gary and I, the other half of 1134 Press, our next project for 2023 is going to be a anthology. It's going to be a book filled with your journal pages and writing about journaling. So more information about how and where and when to submit will be available in February. So definitely look out for that. Like, I'm just so excited for this project, and I can't wait to share it all with you. In that same vein, I am also so appreciative of all the connections that I've made with people online. Everyone from like fellow content creators to members on our Facebook group who share their beautiful pages and, you know, special moments in their life with us on there, and the Buy Me a Coffee members. Like, I'm getting so like meh, because I'm just like so appreciative of all of you and being able to connect with you on here. It's wild. It's wild. And I'm also really grateful that you all just kept coming back to watching my videos, even after taking long breaks in between each upload to focus on family and life stuff. That's awesome. That you all like what we're doing over here enough to not forget about us when we don't post for like a month. So that's great. Okay, and the last thing that was really awesome about 2022 is discovering the freaking line tool. Like, that thing changed my life. This thing, I don't know if it's clear, so you can't really see it. This thing. Game changer, okay? Like, I can't believe I went my whole life just trying my best to write in a straight line, knowing that I couldn't do it if my life was dependent on it. And yeah, this thing saved me so much heartache this year. It is in my Amazon storefront if you want to pick yourself up one of those. It's really cheap and it's amazing. So yeah, no, that wraps it up. That is all that I have to share. I hope you bring in the new year with good vibes, or at least aspire to obtain the good vibes, because, you know, sometimes this time of the year can be really rough on people. And yeah, I hope nothing but goodness for all of you, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you for an awesome 2022. Thank you for an awesome year. I can't wait to get started on the next big project. Okay, see you in the next video. Bye.